Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the MuseCast episode 52. I almost said 25.
25. We're at 52. We missed
We're at
2 weeks.
52. We're at 52.
We were out for 2 weeks. Things
Last
happened.
2 weeks.
Things
A
happened.
lot
There was
happened.
a windy time. I know, like last Saturday, I had to pick up like at least 12 or 13 palm fronds from my yard that blew in from the neighbor's yard.
I am sorry.
It was such a drag.
That's dude. So it was dead set for Tallahassee, right?
It was.
And man, people started peeling out of here, and I really started to second. I had, given my wife
I was up there with you like the day before.
the day before, yeah.
I was up there in Tallahassee Monday and Tuesday, and then I had to leave Tuesday. And my mother's up there in my house, which is not on the coast, but it's 12 or 14 miles from the coast. I don't know, 12, 13 minutes from the coast, maybe 20.
Yeah.
Man, we're talking about Hurricane Helen, however you say
Helene.
it.
Helene.
Hurricane Helene. And
Harmonia.
Harmonia. Oh, we'd have been out of there.
It would have been crazy if they had named it that.
It would have needed us there.
If it was called that, we would have had to release the episode right before the storm. And then when it diverted 90 degrees, east
we did
before it hit Tallahassee, we did that. We could have taken the claim. But yeah, we lucked out. We stuck it out here. So did your mom. And amazingly, like in the last hour stretch, it veered 90 degrees. Like we were watching the map, and the radar, and it just literally just went straight up. Didn't even diagonally go. It's like went like boom, and then went back up. It's insane.
That shows you the unpredictability of storms and that kind of weather. Now, like there's a couple schools of thought. Hurricanes are something that happen in Florida every year. We get it. We have a hurricane season in Florida. People not from Florida. I remember talking about moving to Florida when I was a child living in Oregon, and some of my extended family who weren't moving. It was just my father and I who moved down here at first. They were like, "Oh, hell no, we're not going to Florida with those hurricanes." It was like the scariest thing that they could think of. It like they think about they put in the same category as like Tornado Alley, people not wanting to move to like Kansas, Oklahoma because of tornadoes. And it's like this kind of unfounded fear of the unknown, right? You hear about the worst of the worst, but being a Floridian since 94, so for 30 years, it's just something that happens. Sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're not. Sometimes there's afternoon thunderstorms that are more intense than some of the hurricanes. But, this one was extremely hyped on the media, which I stand by my belief that the media will blow things up for ratings. And there's this whole thing with that. That is my opinion on the media. I don't like the media. I like to get my news from just regular old weather stations and predictions, and I'll take the information and I'll use it to my best judgment for where I'm at in the world and my family. My mother does the same thing. She listens to herself. My house been there for longer than 30 years since we bought it. It's a small place, low to the ground. It's a single story, flat roof. That's kind of like the way things are built in Florida to stay under the weather, so to speak. But very lucky because that storm, I think, was it a category 4?
Yeah, it is a category 4.
Yeah, no joke. Where that thing hit directly, it was, as anticipated. It's category 4 storms hit Florida. Not every year, but there's a couple a decade that hit category 4, every now and then a category 5. And it's totally expected. You know what it's going to do. Storm surge is a real thing, all this stuff. But this storm did something different. This storm hit Florida, kind of that expected storm surge damage, category 4, that is all a calculated kind of a thing. This residual stuff that happened up in the Carolinas, up in Nashville, like was out of left field, out of this world, just catastrophe situation that I never saw coming.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, it was predicted that it would continue to go north as whatever level of tropical storm or, that it
Yeah.
would be. But nobody could have predicted the actual devastation that happened there. And leading up to the Tallahassee hit that was supposed to happen, everyone was concerned that literally, some people were saying Tallahassee was going to be devastated, like literally, like, mowed down to the ground. My mom had people telling her, and it's just, that got really intense. Tallahassee is pretty unique. I mean, knock on wood, we've been really fortunate. That 90-degree turn that it kind of made at the last hour before it made landfall. There is something about the shape of the geography that we're at on Florida that seems to kind of Tallahassee has been a very, very lucky place many, many, many times in, comparison to what happens to a lot of Florida with the hurricanes. And there really might be something to the way that the current happens and, the streams of air and like the way the shape of the land is and how it just kind of always knocks it a little bit one way or the other. So I don't know. That was part of what I took into account in deciding to stay. But, it was a little nerve wracking the night of. I mean, I was really, I have a 2-year old. I have a 17-year old. He spent the night at his girlfriend's house, and that was closer in town, but not a lot of trees there. We have more trees here, so a lot of things starting to factor. And look, I'm the dad, and I'm like saying, hey, let's, it's going to be okay. I'm giving the reassurance. Then you find out, this friend's leaving, this friend's leaving, this friend's leaving, and you're like, am I making the right decision? I'm not the most educated on weather systems and patterns and everything. And could this really be? And you had helped me with Hurricane Debbie
This,
coming over here to
this,
put a tree off, pull a
yeah,
tree
yeah.
off the roof.
The scariest thing is the trees to me. The
Yeah.
scariest thing, especially in your situation, very wooded, very
Hmm.
large trees.
Yeah.
And that's it. When hurricanes come through, wind is wind, and flying projectiles is a thing, and
Hmm.
structural damage to your home is also a thing. Some hurricanes are powerful enough to like rip the roof off, rip houses apart. It's rare that itself happens just from wind. Usually it's residual, it's objects flying and impacting. And the trees are what I was worried about. But you had Debbie and did the tornadoes give you any damage over
The
there?
tornadoes knocked down a lot of trees, but luckily none of them hit buildings. And then Hurricane Debbie was relatively mellow here, especially by comparison to what the tornadoes did.
Yeah.
And that's where the tree came over. Of course, you have to assume that things are weakened, and over the course of time, that was ready to go. And then it didn't take much to finally topple the tree over. But I will
Mhm.
say, seeing the massive tree that fell on the studio not fall all the way to the floor, not completely destroy my entire building, was a little bit of assurance. I mean, honestly, that's probably what gave me the confidence because I know our main house, is built better than my converted barn studio is, and I'm
Slightly.
slightly okay. Well, I have a very interesting, eccentric house with an interesting layout, but I
Yeah.
had more faith in the structure of the house than this building, and to see this building hold up as well as it did. But I do have a cousin in Asheville. He seems to be okay, but he's been living out there for years. And then we had one friend of Amy's went to Asheville to get away from the storm, then got stuck out there for, a few
No.
days. Totally. Went to Asheville, hang out with friends, obviously safe zone, and
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah, where are you gonna
Unreal,
go?
you'd never know.
That's what I'm saying. I used to live in North Carolina, and I was east of East Asheville's western North Carolina. I lived up in kind of the eastern central area of North Carolina. I call it the boring section of just stuck at least 20 years in the past. Sorry, guys, Rocky Mount. Love all you guys up there. That's how I felt living there after coming
Yeah.
to Florida. Anyways, living up there, I would, a couple of years I was there, we would get in hurricane season, we would get exactly that. The storms come, smash Florida, dissipate, and then come and just scatter in the northeast of the states up there. And we would get the aftermath, the tropical storm level stuff. We did have one hit that was semi-serious. Can't remember the year. It would have been like 2002 or 3, I think, because I was still in my teens when I lived there, and I lived alone in a trailer park. Like a bad trailer park,
Yeah.
not crime, but just like crummy, right up next to a field. When it got cold, I had mice from the field come and get in my house and the trailer. And it was like super cheap. I was like teenager living alone, but
Yeah.
I stayed there through the storm. And I remember just me and my cat, and it was a bad storm, and there was a big tree that was growing like half into the trailer, like growing up pushing the wall in. It was so close to the trailer, but it was pretty scary, howling around. The good thing about that trailer park though is it was in a field. There was the one tree was there, but we weren't in a wooded area. That's what scares me, because that's how I know that the death toll has risen, and a lot of the storm death toll has been either from flooding or from trees, like that random phantom tree that blows over and falls on someone's home, or
Yeah.
particularly a trailer that isn't built as well as a home. And they never see it coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it did end up being as lucky as we are. It's been catastrophic for many homes, lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. Well, in relation to the week of the storm, I wanted to bring two other massive events were happening that same week, which was why, I mean, all added to the craziness of it. The first thing was preluding the storm 2 days before was the first screening of Cue the Muses Chapter 3, of which was going to have potentially a few more people here, but people had to start hurricane prepping, so it was down to us, you getting to see it for the first time,
Yep.
the singer that's in the next song, and one of the actors, and so it was just the four of us, but we got to watch Chapter 3 in its entirety with the music video that's in it. And I did enjoy it. It was fun getting to hear where the laughs happened and stuff like that. As the editor, like seeing, okay, I think it was fun.
It was a wild ride. And as as someone who was involved in making of it, obviously, but not the
In a big
editing,
way.
it's so
Yeah.
fun for me to see, the final product. And I had a couple of things that I was really like, that really stuck out in my memory, because my memory doesn't work
Oh, yeah.
fantastic, right? But from remembering filming, like there's core memories of certain things, and then seeing those things and everything else in it all together. And some of like it brought, when I watched it, it like reminded me of things that we had done that I had forgotten. And
2 years ago. We
yeah,
filmed it 2 years ago.
yeah, and I remember
some of it.
the creativity and some of the stuff, and how we just we're just figuring out how to do some of the stuff that we did, and the way your edit pulled it off. It looks so good. I can't talk about it how I want to, but
Right. I know we can't get specific yet, but it
really
was.
It was really fun.
That's great, man. And yeah, I'm real excited about it. And so what the storm kind of pushed back our plans by roughly a week. We were talking about we got to figure out an exact date, but we haven't even gotten to discuss this yet, right? But I'm leaning towards that we put it out in 2 weeks from now. So originally, basically over the course of this weekend, maybe we can get our DistroKid stuff figured out.
Yeah.
Get stuff uploaded, get it set and scheduled and all that, and then put a date for maybe somewhere. I haven't even looked at the exact calendar, but somewhere around the 20th of October, like a week before you go on your cruise, a couple of weeks before I'm going to SEMA and filming all the car stuff out there for the 2 films that I'm making out of that.
Yeah.
And then that way, and then when I get back from SEMA, we put out the full episode. Because guys, if you haven't heard, we're putting it out in reverse this time. We're putting out the music video first, and then we're going to put out the whole episode 2 to 3 weeks after that.
We're giving you the goods. And this time,
Giving it to you.
This time, I feel like we're still holding some good stuff back, because some of the stuff in this episode is really good. Really.
I think it's fun, man. And I think, there's a few spots in the music video where if you don't know what the show is about, and even lyrically, like it's still a banging song regardless, but there's some very specific lyrics. We were talking about that. This song has some of the most direct lyrics to what the plot is of the movie happening in it. And so anyway, there's a lot of reasons to check out the fun episode that comes out later, but we're going to go ahead and put the music video out first, let people hopefully just get right to that and be excited, and maybe, and hopefully get people that have no clue what Cue the Muses is to hear a song first and then be like, "What? This is a cool band. Let me go look it up." It's like, oh,
Yeah.
they've got a show. There's a couple other songs that are in the show, and there's an episode that's coming out with it.
And this is my actual hat that I wore in the show.
And that looks mint.
No, this is my good hat. Hold on.
That's the clean one. You have two of them, and that's the clean
Fun
one.
fact, kids, movie magic. This is the fun hat. This is the stunt hat.
Oh my God! Yeah, you keep one pristine, and the other.
I don't say I like the dirt. The dirty one is, broke in, fits better, it's more comfortable. But so let me adjust my chair. Once Hurricane Helene came through, made its fateful 90-degree turn, spared you guys, everyone that we know in the Big Bend area, turned towards Perry. You guys were out of power. You and I were talking the next day. This was Thursday afternoon. It came in and hit. Thursday evening, right? It was rocking, cutting through. Friday
Yeah.
was what was that? The 27th.
Yeah.
We had tickets for the beat for King Crimson in Orlando.
With Danny Carrey and Steve Vai.
Who did not cancel their show. Who
I was kind of mad that they didn't.
Pressed on. You were comfortable enough with the situation at the house that you and Tristan and Tristan's girlfriend made the trip. And Kyra and myself and Amber made the trip. And
I abandoned my wife and 2-year-old with no power here to go to a rock concert with my other son. Because I'm a father that comes through for one child at a time.
Holds true to your word.
Yeah.
But guys, so I admittedly, my head was buried in the sand forever about King Crimson. I never really listened to them. And I kind of, over the last year, 2 years now, you and I have talked about them. My son, Kyron, is a big fan of King Crimson.
My son's a bigger fan than I am. I mean, he's getting me into them. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the way things like skip a generation, I think, sometimes, right? Because Tool, the band Tool that we like, not everybody likes Tool. You and I like Tool a lot.
Yes. Very much.
Was very heavily influenced by King Crimson. And you can hear it. At one point you even said this is the original 46 and 2.
It did sound like it.
Yeah. But obviously, because Danny Carey is playing drums with him, and
he was influencing a little bit of Toolish elements in there too. But the riff I was commenting on had nothing to do with Danny Carey. That riff straight up sounded like, I could see this being an inspiration for 46 and 2.
I'm watching that show and so I know who Steve Vai is. Steve Vai is a wonderfully amazing, super talented guitar player. It's not really my thing, even though I'm a guitar player. I respect it. I admire it. I love it. I don't listen. I don't listen to it. I don't. Yeah. I've never sat down and said, I need to listen to me some Steve Vai. That's just reality. I'm being honest here. But he was great. What was surprising and really, really cool to me was what's the name of the vocalist guitar player for King Crimson?
Adrian Belew, and for this era of Crimson, because they changed things around.
Well, that gentleman
is my understanding.
Like I said, okay, so his name is Adrian Belew. His playing, his style, his lead styles, the things that he did a lot of stuff with effects, was really a little unorthodox like that.
It was all unorthodox.
Yeah.
all of it was unorthodox.
Watching him particularly, I kept thinking to myself, man, how come I wasn't paying attention to this guy 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Because the way he plays and the way I attempt to play, I just saw similarities, like lead things using volume swells, using effects to create tones, and just not like I gravitate towards that, more towards like Tom Morello style, like these
Hmm.
unorthodox things, rather than traditional scales, patterns, leads. I'm
Yeah.
not
Well,
I'm
and Adam Jones too. I mean, he's,
exactly.
stretched out, elongated tones, weird rhythms, not flashy by any stretch, just really atmospheric and original sounding.
Yeah, yeah. And I enjoy listening to that more than I want to hear, somebody, I'm not going to say who, but someone who you and I know said a long time ago that that's why they didn't like the band Avenged Sevenfold, because they said that the band Avenged Sevenfold, all they're doing is they're just playing a bunch of scales. I said, and this is a relatively successful musician that we know.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, well, don't. Granted, I'm not the biggest Avenged Sevenfold fan. I don't have any posters. I'm not going to their shows, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah. But
but again, I was like, but don't. Isn't that what all the bands do? Doesn't if you're playing a song and you're playing a lead, aren't you just kind of playing a scale? Like
yeah.
what
Well,
are they
everything's
doing
in a scale
different?
ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it was just the noodling style, like because they do kind of
I
have a
don't
noodling.
think, well, I don't know. So I don't listen to them a lot, but I've listened to all their albums. So I mean, I've heard them all. And I would say I hear a ton of Metallica influence in a lot of it. And they go into the solos themselves are my least favorite part of it. I think that they actually do a pretty decent job of making kind of progressive compositions, and I like that. And they definitely experiment with some different stuff in the last couple albums that I was surprised that they were. But it never, for me, it never fully grabs me and pulls me in. I would say this though, I would totally, if they came close, I would absolutely go see them live because musically they're doing a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think I say I don't go see them, but I think I actually have seen them, like maybe at a festival. But um,
Mm,
like they're in this category that now to me they're in the same category as like Sleep Token. And now I don't think they
mm.
sound anything like Sleep Token. I'm just saying that
I like Sleep Token
the same.
more, which I'm sure is going to get me a lot of hate, but I
It's like
actually like
50,
Sleep
it's like
Token more.
50-50 with Sleep Token. And
Yeah.
it was the same thing happened to me with both bands. So 20 years ago with Avenged Sevenfold, and then 2 years ago with Sleep Token. This band came around. I listened to it on my own, and I kind of liked it, but I wasn't sure if I really but I listened to it front to back on the album, like all of it, and really like because it was just something like it sounded a little different than usual or something.
Yeah.
And both bands, I kind of came to the conclusion that nope, it's not for me.
Mm.
And so like I just it's weird. I don't not like it. I mean, I hear it.
Yeah.
They both have a very distinct vocal thing, right? And a lot of vocals that are distinct like that, it comes right down the middle. It's 50-50. Either you like it or
Yes.
you don't.
Yes.
And I didn't know if I liked the Sleep Token guy because he does a thing that I don't like where he at the end of like phrasing and
Well,
stuff.
I think there's a few things that he does that totally makes sense to me why it would break it for some people to not like it or make your ears perk up and that's why you like it. One of the reasons that you
It
do like it.
definitely catches your attention. Like
It does. It's kind of R&B esque on certain songs. And then there's also on top of that, definitely some vocal effects plastered across the top. Like a lot of
yeah.
there's bands that literally their vocal sound always has to be accompanied by a certain effect on the vocal tone. And there's bands that I like a lot that have that, but in some regards it's almost like a weird crutch because I wonder what it would sound like on an acoustic. And it was just a stripped down voice. Is this voice even that good? With the Sleep Token voice, I can tell that the dude actually can sing really well. So I enjoy it in that it's making this weird, different sound to it. That man, sometimes I'm so desperate to hear something that doesn't sound like other stuff,
I
and
do get that. Yeah, I
you
get
know, and so, but there's certain songs by Sleep Token. I've listened to them actually significantly more now than Avenged Sevenfold. And I just discovered Sleep Token a year ago.
Yeah.
I go through pockets where I'm listening to them pretty heavily. If like they're my go-to for like a week at a time for workouts and stuff. And man, I gotta say, I really like a lot of what they do. But I'm hearing certain songs, and I'm like, I would totally get why somebody would not like this.
It's like you gotta
100% get it, you
you
know.
gotta be in that, for me, like that mood. Like there's a mood that I get in where I can listen to some Sleep Token and get into it. And it's
When
just
you're sleeping.
that's not me on an everyday thing. Like to be candid, to me, like on any, what's a band right now that I could listen to anytime? You could put it on and I'll say turn it up and leave it, like Red Fang.
Mm,
Like bands
yeah.
that are like Clutch, like,
Uh-huh.
Mastodon, just these bands that just the songs that, and those, all three of those bands, no, Clutch maybe it's different and certain ones, but the vocals aren't really like the forefront thing, especially Red Fang. Red Fang's just like
Mhm.
four dudes that don't give a F and they just jam. And if the vocals just say what they're trying to say. They're not trying to be too singy. And like
Uh-huh.
sometimes I don't want to listen to somebody be singy, just in a mood. And I think that's everybody has their thing and their modes, right? You got
Well,
fuzzy when you're back
yeah,
now.
I noticed my signal went low, so I just tried to turn off the Wi-Fi on my phone to see if that helps. I don't know if it was pulling from it.
You look great.
Um,
Sound great too.
thanks.
Sound like sleep.
Um, man, I'll tell you, yeah, there's absolutely bands that I can listen to anytime. Tool is like hearing a part of my spirit, so I can have that on anytime. But and there's many other bands that'll do that for me, but I think I do gravitate predominantly towards music that has vocals unless I'm doing specific activities like certain editing or
Yeah.
like where I've got to focus, or if I'm writing something or like I'm coming up with something creatively, I don't want vocals. Vocals absolutely pull me directly into what the lyrics are saying, and it can't be, I
Mhm.
just can't have it. I'm trying to put together a story. I don't need any distractions like that. I just want to be in a certain mental state. And there's, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I like something like one of the coolest. No, nobody's gonna like this, but I'm still gonna recommend it. I just discovered this fuck this album that nobody's gonna like,
Nobody's gonna
that
like.
I love, and it's by a band called Software. All right, and it was made in 1983. It's a specific album because they've got many, and it's called. Oh my god, I got to look it up because I hyped it up this much. Future, just
Is this like
future
all?
worlds or
I'm I'm
something.
I'm
It,
picturing this as all like 80s robot sounds.
dude, it's like there's stretches. There's no vocals. It's weird analog synths stretching out the wazoo for infinite amounts of time. Atmospheric this and that, but and
Okay.
flutes. Like the opening song to it is called something Electronic Universe Part One.
Oh,
Okay, I've listened to four of their albums now. This is the only one that does this for me. Yeah, dude. Actually, maybe you will like it because you just got into this flute playing. This recorder. Maybe you will like it. At least listen to the first song. It's only 20 minutes. Um,
I'm definitely gonna listen to it. I've actually got a list of things that I need to listen to. I'm so bad. My friends send me things, and
well,
I've
it's hard to
got
keep up with it all.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got a list. I'm gonna go through this weekend and listen to stuff.
Well,
Because
I'm going to send you this one song, but this is one that you put on meditatively or in the background, or like when you're trying to
yeah,
come down a notch and just be
I've got
thoughtful or
a
introspective or creative. Yeah.
I have a reading playlist on my music app.
Okay.
And typically it's classical music and like lots of piano, like solo piano music. I really love listening to just piano music, especially
Yeah.
minor key piano music while I'm reading. will change the tone of how the book flows,
Of
right? Especially
course.
reading fiction. It's so fun to read, like just intense, like horror novels, science fiction novels. So this is kind of stuff I like if I'm reading fiction while listening to these eerie piano pieces. Like,
Nice.
whoa,
Nice.
those are, I haven't done it in a long time. I should read more and play less video games probably, but
I actually I do not read stories. I only read like books on like spiritual shit, or like or
nonfiction.
business books, yeah, or biographies.
Yeah.
Like that's I always, or technical stuff. I'm like, it's got to be teaching me something. It's pretty
I
much where I'm at with books,
I've gotten into
which is
that
crazy. But
I've gotten into that same mode. I haven't read
yeah,
a good full fiction novel
yeah.
in years. Because I made the switch and started reading more like it's just, I think it happens when you get a little bit older. I think that's a side effect of
Dude, philosophy is like my
yeah,
go-to when it comes to reading a
yeah.
book. I want to like recalibrate my view on life and take it up a notch.
I need
So
to
anything that helps endorse me enjoy life more,
I yeah, I need to get a
take
book that
gratitude.
I need to pick up a book I left in the studio at your place.
The
It's on the
miserable
top
fuck
shelf.
one.
Yeah, yeah, the miserable fuck one. I
Dude,
used to be a miserable. That's
when
such a
the
good
tree
book. It's so
fell,
fun.
when the tree fell on my studio,
Yeah.
the only thing that fell off of your shelf that's in the, well, there are two things actually. Two things fell off your shelf that's in the corner in the Key
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Muses laboratory. When you watch the show, Dick's kind of got the
It's
right
on
side of
when yeah, when you watch the screen, mine's on the right and
the
yours
side that
in.
he's on.
So everyone knows too, this is a fun thing that's maybe we've never talked about is the way we decorated the studio, our laboratory set.
Yeah.
All of my personal items related to me specifically are on the right side, the same side I come in through the door in episode 1. Everything on that shelf are all my personal belongings. Some of them are very personal things that used to belong to my father. There's a gas mask that he had from 1953 that's on
Yeah.
that shelf. There's the hammer of the East Wing hammer that was his hammer before he passed away is on
Wow.
that shelf. And on your side, it's all your stuff. So the left side
That's
is all
right.
his personal items, with the exception of one. My father's old bass guitar is
That
on your.
bass ended up there. That's not mine at all, but all the other stuff is. But the and I got like all the Kill Clouseau albums up, and then I've got my dad's. My dad had, before he passed away in the last year, he had made personally this wrapping. It was a snake leather that went around his arm for the movie that he wanted to make. But he never got to make the movie, and all kinds of little personal jewels. We'll do a tour sometime. That'd be a fun little behind the scenes video to put on the channel.
Yeah, that
But
would
the
be.
thing that fell off when the tree from Hurricane Debbie fell onto the studio was it fell over your side, and that book fell, and also Kyron's picture fell, and it broke. The frame broke on it.
Oh
So
wow.
I don't know if that's symbolic. The name of the title is called what is it? That
I used to be a miserable fuck.
Yeah. So that book fell on the ground,
It's
and it
written
might have
by
gotten a little wet, and then Kyron's picture fell and broke on the ground, so it was next to that.
oh well,
So
don't
you
worry.
might need to get your shit together again.
I
I
have
don't know.
multiple copies of that photo of Kyron. I actually have one in here. I can see it right now.
Okay. All
Him and
right.
Hayden. But that's a really fun book. Amber got me that book a couple years. I went through a depression when my father died, and that was like her gift to me to like just stop being a miserable fuck. It's funny, and it's so good. It really did help me.
That's
I
great.
think I tried to give it to David. I know I got David the same book I got you, the Dakota, the Masashi book.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
got him.
I've kind of picked, I'll open it up and read a certain page out of that, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
You know what I
that one.
mean? Like that's how I'm kind of treating that book, is I'll just open up, and then whatever the given page is that it randomly opens to is
Yeah,
the tidbit of wisdom to
yeah,
carry
and
forth that day.
it's super fun the way that one's laid out with all the interpretations from people of different walks of life, and it really gives you a perspective of kind of where you lie in kind of the scheme of the world, and also opens your eyes that your perspective isn't the way everyone else perceives it, because everybody has their own take on and their own reaction to things that happen to in the world. And
Totally.
it's
And
not
that's
all.
about the swordsman. Joe Rogan's sleeve of tattoos is dedicated to that specific samurai warrior.
Yeah, Miyamoto Musashi.
Yeah, and the five
His
rings, right?
Musashi is his like given name, and Miyamoto is the family name. Japanese names are
Mm,
backwards like ours. Like our given name is our first name, and um, our family name is the last name. They're in
mm,
Japanese, it's reversed. But it's like that. He's very famous, and that was that book is about his final passages he wrote on his deathbed as an old man. So that book, the Dakodo, takes his, I forget how many there are. There were like 17 or somewhere in there, but they're just very short phrases, like a sentence. Some of them are just 4 words, but it's a deep retrospect into those by the different walks of life, like from a warrior, a healer, an educator, one of them might be a construction guy. I can't remember. It's been 12 years since I read the book. My original copy was like, I was so into that book. My original copy highlighted. I had sections in there. Like I dove into that book, like really helped me to reinvent myself when I needed to. And then I lent that copy out to someone and never got it back. And I bought it again, and I haven't gone through and reread it again. It's
mm-hmm.
one of those things that's on that to-do list.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those kind of books.
I think one of my favorite in talking about books that like really helped you or
Yeah.
me, I'll say one that helped me, and it was recommended to me by the like over 12 years ago, I guess, the owner of Trans Am Depot at the time, but now Trans Am Worldwide,
Mhm.
recommended a book to me. I went and got it. It's called there's some of it that's like slightly, it was written a long ass time ago. I think it was written in the 1800s. So some of it is a little dated, but 95% of it, like that might be offensive, but 98% of it, 98% of it is amazing. It's called As a Man Thinketh.
Yeah, James Allen. James Allen.
Yeah. Have you read that book?
Yeah, I've
I
read it.
love that book.
I've read it. I've also, there's a version of that book that's read, audio version on YouTube that's only like 45 minutes long, because it's not a very long book.
The book is short. You
Yeah,
can read it, and I've read it 5 times.
you can listen to that
I kind
book
of read it
3
annually
times
or
in a
biannually.
row on the way between my house and your house.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, that one you recommended that to me. I got it. I read
Oh,
it.
okay.
It was fantastic. And whoever's listening or watching this, like that one is, you're right. It is a dated book. I mean, but the so is Marcus Aurelius. So is Sun Tzu's
Right, right.
Art of War.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The human mind, we can advance technology all we want to. The certain things get forgotten and changed for the better, obviously.
Mm,
But the way the human mind thinks, and the way the philosophical mindset and the stoic mindset works is universal, transcends.
yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius's meditations is just as influential and impactful today as it has been for the last, what, 700 years? I don't even
And
know how
and
long.
that is, I have not read it, and it's literally the next book that's in my queue to read or listen to, whatever form I end up going. But that's the next one I'm going for. Absolutely. I've heard
That,
enough people tell me I have to, especially as somebody that meditate. You
yeah.
know,
So
it's
yeah,
crazy I haven't.
and so you know what it is. I mean,
I
Marcus was
do.
Marcus was out on the Crusades, or what? Not the Crusades, but he was at war off, and he would just retreat into his tent and reflect and write and about anything and everything. Some of them are short, some of them are long, some of them are stories, but just the way the man's mind thought, and the way he had the ability to, and I think James Allen touched on the same thing. The way Marcus Aurelius had the ability to retreat into his mind and be at peace and be in paradise And that's what James Allen's book was touched on so powerful to me. Like, as a man thinketh, if as long as everything in here is in a good state, no matter how bad things get out here, you can always retreat into your sanctuary here and be at peace and be in sanctuary, no matter how
Well,
bad it is.
and
Right?
I think absolutely, and I think the extension of that I've used as a tool to progress myself also is there seems to be, the man how you man how much of what you think manifest into reality, right? So, dialing if you are internally filled with conflict, how that kind of cascades around you, and almost like a magnet, that's the environment that you'll only get more of.
Mm-hmm.
Reverse it, a lot of momentum, positive energy, really just trying to be the best person that you can be. Literally like the best person, not like achieve the most, just be the best genuine person that you can. Do the most good that you can. Be, whether it be directly to your family or every person around you, just trying to be a good person. And like what naturally kind of comes with that. And that's why a lot of that is part of religion too. And I'm not personally religious, but I see why you're constantly endorsed with the idea that your religion is as powerful as it is, because like 99 out of 100 religions are getting you to move in a positive direction. You start doing these principles, that is what you get back in a lot of ways. And the more you start spiraling down to the negativity, that you really do, it's like, and it's so much quicker. It's so much quicker to fall down the rabbit hole of negativity than it is to build up the
Yes.
foundation of
Yes.
positivity.
Yeah. I shared my favorite scripture quote on Instagram the other day, and it's actually out of I think it's in the Bible. It's like they use it in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's
Yeah,
Lord, grant me the strength to change the things that I need to, the courage. Lord, grant me the strength to accept the things that I can't change, the courage to change the things that I need to, and the wisdom to know the difference. Maybe I've probably butchered that, but that's to the extent. That's what that. It's my
yeah,
favorite. It's my favorite like scripture thing, because
nice.
that's so grounded in reality, and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
everything kind of comes down to that of stoicism, right? It's like
uh-huh.
why we're like with, and that's what kind of comes down like with the hurricane, like why I cannot affect what it's going to do. I can only affect what I do, right? And then you can only prep, you can brace for the storm, but you can't change the storm. It's like, and that's life in a nutshell.
Yeah,
But like Marcus Aurelius Meditations reads like the Holy Bible. Like the Bible has it's scripture. So religious people will open a Bible and read like you're talking about. They just read a verse of scripture, right?
right,
In the Bible, and they all have like profound life's lessons. The Bible is just specifically Christianity and religion, where Marcus Aurelius wrote his book is specifically just a philosopher's interpretation of life, and it reads the same. So does, for me over the years, so does music lyrics. A lot of times you find comfort in a song where the lyrics are touching touching close to home, and they help you. Well, that's no different than the religious man having you being in a dark. I'm saying this like a Neanderthal, but someone who is religious, who is having a really hard time finding his his sanctuary in the Bible, reading the verses in
yeah.
the Bible. It's the same thing with someone who's getting their healing from music and from lyrics in a song, or
Well, and I would say that, well, music is a large part of church too. They have, a
yeah,
lot of churches go heavy into music, and I was going to say that if when combined with music, I mean, you don't even need lyrics to
a lot of
get the
times. No.
power of immediate ground shifting psychological reframing and change to happen within 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even make sense, but it makes the most sense because it's like it's beyond the intellect. It's like what music does. It doesn't make sense why you like a song. Doesn't make sense. There's no way to put on paper why a song actually does something for you. You could say, well, the lyrical content was like, all right, what about when there's not lyrics? And it still completely makes you feel inspired about like life.
It's the key. It's your auditory. It's the response that happens in your auditory cortex, where the sounds that are being translated into your inner ear communicate with a piece in your brain, and magic happens. Literal
It is magic.
magic happens.
I wonder if it's like a some it's like your actual soul, spirit, whatever, like it goes beyond maybe even the brain. Like it's not like there's a calculation for the brain that you could put into the brain that creates this exact effect. There's no really rhyme or reason. I feel like it's almost like dimension hopping, like Sasquatch level stuff.
It absolutely can be a dimension.
If you followed other episodes that we put out.
He is a dimension.
I mean, I'm telling you, this is like it. When you say magic, it's like, yeah, like it to the point. Like music is so nothing else on the planet, no other form of can put you into a state that freaking fast. The way that it does, it's like it physically is changing your chemistry. You can see if you do readings on brains and stuff, these things and effects that are happening. It's very hard to achieve that in just looking at, and I'm not belittling painting, I'm not belittling film. It's just that music is the quickest. No rhyme or reason why it does it when it does it. Just connects to you, changes, like shakes you down to your core, gives you goosebumps.
I have got a spider who will not leave me alone. He's on my foot right now, wearing flip flops. Sorry, he was on my arm earlier, and I don't want to hurt the guy, but he's a
oh.
I think.
What kind of spider is this? Tarantula?
I just flicked him because I caught my eyes on him and kind of identified him, and I think it's a fucking brown recluse.
Oh, yeah, you don't want that crawling on you.
It's either him or a huntsman spider, and I don't know where he went. I'm not scared of spiders as long as I can identify what they are. I don't particularly like them crawling on me before I've identified them, but that's what I don't want. But getting back to the music topic, it's like,
and that's,
right now where I'm at, the most miserable times in my life have been times where I'm not listening to music regularly and not playing music regularly. Playing music. And I get depressed. That's when depression sinks in for me. Like there's this weird thing that happens to me specifically that I get in a depression and I can't funk out of it. Like it locks me up. It happened to me when I was in my early 20s, and I tried this experiment moving to Pinellas County, Florida, where my mom was living at the time. I wanted to go to college, and I went down there, and my girlfriend was with me at the time, and it was like, didn't play any music, didn't know anybody, just kind of was working and doing the thing, and it was awful, just awful. And then I moved back to Tallahassee when my old man got sick, and then started playing music. I'm happy again. I'm like, well, it didn't work out with the girl. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm playing music. This is great. This is amazing, but lately, music that I don't normally listen to has been attracting me, like old-timey country music for some reason.
I can get into that. I go through pockets of that.
Yeah, like especially because recently my Cherokee, the motor blew up. And driving my Cherokee, really nice stereo, super nice stereo. Sounds like the most amazing car stereo just for listening to music, and now I'm driving my Wrangler, which is the only car that drives, and it has a really terrible, awful, cringy, tinny, 30-year-old stock junk of a stereo. But old-timey country sounds better on that. It's almost like
right. It's like vinyl.
Yeah, you picture like an old busted up pickup truck with a crappy radio, and you got a cassette in there and it's playing some old country thing like that.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel good.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's time traveling to an extent. Like
Yeah.
the stuff that was like from long, long ago like that. I mean, there's yeah, music's magical. I personally just go through pockets where it's like not just listening music cheers me up. It really just it has to be something that either has always really done it for me and I haven't listened to it long enough that it spikes it and feels new again, or I got to find something new. I mean, I'm on the hunt for new stuff all the time, and new stuff can be really old stuff that I never heard. That's new.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll go down this rabbit hole of like super old shit. And I just like, I feel like I think this is a part of me getting older is like the way that I identify that that was an era. Like it was a whole place. I feel like I'm sitting in that moment in time. Like I'm time traveling and it
Mhm.
feels great. Like it kind of makes life puts things in perspective and kind of makes me revalue like the spectrum of time from being a kid to an adult and watching my kids grow up. All that starts to really cycle through my mind when I'm listening to really old shit.
Yeah.
You know, I love
Yeah.
it.
And like this the sound of it, then that's the whole other topic of like the tone of the older stuff. Like for a long time I was really stuck on like kind of modern, real modern sounding, and I still like it, don't get me wrong, like
Of
aggressive, that's
course,
like
of
modern
course.
metal and stuff, like super, but that's just the unpolished, you gotta be good to
Yeah,
record it kind of thing.
yeah,
Just I appreciate it so much more now, and I enjoy listening to the stuff that isn't as pristine, you
hmm
know? Like I really I'm sometimes I get turned off by like the listening to a song and hearing that okay, it's like super too clean, too perfect on the, we've talked about that before, you know,
yeah, yeah,
that whole sentiment. And I hear bands that have recorded different types, and it really disappoints me when I hear the honest stuff versus the over polished stuff. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like I want to I want I want more of this other stuff, you know? Like that's why bands I respect bands that just continue to continuously put out the honest stuff, and they really don't fall into that that
yeah.
that weird thing. But
Well, and it's weird because it's a little bit of a Tool is my favorite band. I love the way their recordings sound, but you want to talk about high production and polished. I mean, but the so here's my caveat to that. It's like the tones themselves are something different because it
yeah.
doesn't sound like, you know, there's bands that go to producers to get a certain sound and
Mhm.
that sound when other bands go to that producer, it all sounds the same. It all sounds the same, man. They're just making them sound like the other band that they went there to record with. And with Tool, I feel like every album has new tones to it. Like they were trying out different stuff with the guitar heads and this and that. It's all recorded as good as you can record it. So it's not stripped down by any stretch.
Yeah.
But you can tell that they're like really reaching to find new tones and sounds and try out different layering techniques. And I do believe they go to different producers, you know, and they never come out of it and it's like, oh, like sounds like this band. It's like it always sounds like Tool because they're Tool. But I don't know. It's like an example of still doing high production, really polished, as punchy as it can be, but it still sounds organic enough, you know. They also
Yeah.
don't do a tremendous amount of compression like is the default for a lot of bands. You know, I think that's one of the things that happens, in my opinion, for a lot of bands that are working on a budget when they go to a studio is that a lot of compression gets slapped on at the end because it makes it punch and the volume levels all sitting super high, so the
Makes it
dynamics get lost in
exciting.
that. It does, and you've never heard yourself sound that way, so you get really excited about sounding so big and in your face. But when you put that much compression across everything, it does start to sound like a lot of other stuff. I think it's hard when you start putting that much compression on to get the organic dynamic range that's happening that really could exist with everything you recorded, you know,
Yeah.
and just let it sit at a lower volume. When you listen to a Tool album back to back with other albums, the volume level is quieter. Now on Spotify, that's a little bit different because when you listen to it on a streaming platform, this is something I acknowledged on disc.
They
On a
level more.
streaming platform, it's trying to even it out more.
Yeah.
But when you had the actual physical albums and you put on Tool and then you didn't change the volume and you put in a different band that was more, that was, you know, recorded in the last 25 years, it's like always louder. The other
Yeah.
band is always louder. It's like, okay, there's something to not maxing out that volume point and letting the dynamic range
Mhm.
happen to where you, and here's something else that happens. You get to the quiet parts and it's like, I can't hear what he's saying. They put Maynard kind of down in the mix. So what do? You got to turn it up. So
Yeah.
then when it hits and there's dynamic range where it's actually louder, now they sound big as fuck. I
Yeah.
think that that's a really important trait to have in a mix. If you, because when you skip that, it never gets that bigger sound. It's all up here. Even the quiet parts are just there,
Yeah. And
you know?
it all depends on the song too, because some songs there's quiet parts where I really appreciate having the vocal like really up front and being able to
That, yeah,
hear
yeah,
and like it's but their Tool had this breaking point that was like right. I think it happened at Lateralis, and I think what happened was Adam Jones played a bassman head and ran like distortion pedals to a bassman head early on. And I remember researching because he just that tone on I call it enema. People call it an enema, whatever.
yeah.
Um, but
I,
that album had a tone that to me at the time, like nobody else sounds like this. Granted,
mm,
granted, I was really getting into it like in the later 90s when new metal was coming out. So
mm,
a lot of bands kind of had a really shitty solid state tone, you know,
uh-huh.
around that time. That was just a style. And but I was like, man, I was like, what is he doing? I read somewhere that he blended like just a little bit of flange in his distortion to get this weird oscillating sound, this strange. I love that. And at some point, Adam Jones quit using that type of rig and he went to these really like really high-end badass diesel guitar amps and mesas and stuff and like started blending distortions and his distortions turned into like this super it's just a really super clean, like nice distortion. Sounds great, but it's not the weird, like the breakdown in eulogy towards the very end of the song where he's not it's not super high gain, it's not really, it's kind of an ugly distorted tone where he plays that
Yeah,
you can just hear it, you can hear his fingers bending on it. You can hear like all the character of the riff in there. That particular riff was like one I was like, that's fucking rad, you know. And had he done, had he tracked that same riff, I think, like on an album that they did today, it wouldn't have the same character because he would track it probably on a diesel. And it would probably be like with more distortion. The more distortion there is, the less of that character from that era. That's why like that older era for me for Tool is more what I like the most. And I hate like saying I'm not saying like, oh, their old stuff was great and they suck now. People say that about Mastodon all the time. I'm like, you're retarded because everything I've heard from Mastodon from the old stuff, the new stuff absolutely blows my mind. It's
yeah,
like there's it's Tool's the same way. I'm saying is like they change and that's good. It's good because they are evolving that sound. They still sound like them, right? It's still Tool, but they don't sound exactly like they did in 1996. They
yeah.
evolve. They evolve.
Yeah,
and they have different things. Like I'm just calling out one specific riff from one specific song that I feel is very attached to, right? And there's a million people in the world who have a million attachments to certain things, and there's the matrix of music for that specific, genre. And but that ugly tone is more attractive to me, just personally, than that super clean one from the high end amp.
well, and yeah, I like it all.
Yeah.
And it does sound different, and there's new tones in every album that I'm like, oh, like they're exploring stuff with the cleans. I like it all. I totally get it being a little bit dirtier. Um, Too, what's interesting about you bringing up, and we've crossed our hour, so I'll close out on this. But there's a new tool. They remastered Anima or Enema, and yeah, because when Danny Carey did his interview on Rick Beato asked him if he had a specific favorite recording that Tool has ever done. Did he like any specific song or album or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot remember which song he said, but it was a song, and it was off of Anima, and he specifically said, we did a new remaster for on Anima, because they're doing Anima again. And I want to say he said Push It, but I don't think that's the case. For me, Push It off the Solival album, which a lot of people forget about,
The
was,
alternate version.
dude, that was my favorite Tool song for like years. That version of Push It.
Same. It's
Dude, so good.
There's a live version where Maynard says, "I want you to go on a journey with us.
Yeah,
It's about trust,
that's it. It's a live version of Push It.
Yeah, and he goes, I've got to push myself away.
Yeah, dude.
The
drum,
that riff, I play that riff all the time. That the slower version opening riff. It's one of my favorite riffs.
It's like 3 minutes of drums leading up to it, just light tablas and stuff, and little teeny this and that. And it's like, it's better than the Anima version. I'm sorry, but
it's different. I do like them both. I do like that version more. I do the alternate,
and it was live.
Yeah,
and it sounded that good.
That idea of that. The alternate version of the same song, I fell in love with. I felt like this whole idea of it's the same song, it's a different version of the song. That's fire.
Yeah, especially for live. I mean, how cool is it to go see your favorite band, and then in this setting, we're gonna play this extended. We're gonna add 4 or 5 minutes onto our song. We have an extended, different version of it. I mean, that's exciting. That is what is so exciting. That's why I love seeing the Red Hot Chili Peppers play. Dude, they added multiple minutes onto many, many songs where they just went off on crazy solos. Like Chad had extended solos. John Frusciante had extended solos. So did Flea. But I walked away from that concert with John Frusciante being my favorite guitar player for the next 3 years, because I had no idea he was that good. But when they did their solos, I mean, I'd never heard him play like that. I was like, oh my God, this guy's like so good. But anyway,
who did that? Incubus did that. Incubus.
Oh, did they in the last show you saw?
In the last show when they did the Morning View 25th. Then after they played the album, they did like a greatest hits montage, and I can't remember specific ones off the top of my head, but some of them, they just took songs to places that were so good, so different, so beautiful.
I hope they make an album of that.
They did the old school, bring the couch out on the stage, and they all sat on the couch and played acoustic. Like on Sunday, they did acoustic version of a couple of songs. Like Amber was bummed at one of them because they did a full acoustic version of one of the songs from Morning View that she was really pumped to hear, like the full band. And but they did it like this cool jazzy acoustic. I was like, this is rad.
Yeah,
so much fun. So cool.
Yeah.
So
That's very cool.
before we end on it, there's a show in Tallahassee tomorrow night.
Which is well,
Which
this
is
will
a
come out on Saturday. So is this?
yeah. So this is already come and gone. So,
Okay.
so
All right.
there's a special guest band performing. And they're posted this thing. If you can guess who this bass player is, you'll know who the band is. I'll just let that sit with you.
I mean, I feel I know who that is. I didn't even know he played bass.
He is not a bass player. This is definitely a staged photo. This is a joke. That is Kurt Rogers pretending to play Slim's bass. Yeah, the band Defy the Tyrant is playing with some other bands from Orlando tomorrow night. Defy the Tyrant is the guest band. I'm not performing with. This will come in.
Okay.
This is not a show I'm doing. I'm not a full-time member of Defy the Tyrant. I play if I'm available and they have a show, I'll come fill in. Ian is not.
So are they playing with one guitar player, or they have another guy that comes in?
I honestly don't know. They're actively searching for like a local guy, I think, to play with them.
Tallahassee.
Yeah, Tallahassee bass. I can't be like a full legit member because they want to play, they want to go tour. They're looking to tour and really hit it. So, but I thought this was funny. This is Kurt Rogers pretending to play the bass.
Well, I bet he can play a little bit because he plays guitar.
He plays acoustic. I've seen him play the bass, and he's more of an acoustic player than a bass player. But I'll bet if he wants to, he looks like he's got the look. He's got a chord. Rock. He's got something going on there. Yeah. He's got Slim's bass.
I believe in you, Kurt. You got this shit, man.
Yeah, do it up. That's Dennis Tipton's arm back there. I know that arm.
Wow.
I don't know who this is. So here the height of this person in the side here. So this person, this haunting shadow with this long arm.
That's Slim.
That is Slim looking down on Kurt.
But Kurt's also doing a big wide rock stance, so he's getting down on it.
Yeah, he's getting after it. I thought that was funny.
And Slim's he's a tall man.
Slim
taller than me.
He's a tall drink of water.
Yeah.
Well, episode 52 in the books.
Yeah, thank God we got that done. All right.
Yeah,
Chapter 3, guys, next week we will announce when we are releasing it for sure. And the week before we put out the song, we are going to I'm going to make some form of a teaser. You'll hear one snippet. I made the trailer. You guys have seen it, but that's for the episode. That's not coming out yet. We got to have the teaser for the song first.
Teasers.
Teaser. We'll tease you, and then it'll come out. And hopefully, if you guys dig it, you'll share it.
That'd be sweet. People might dig it, or they might not, or they'll think it's.
If you don't dig it, don't share it. Don't share it as a favor.
You'll either love it or hate it, or you'll think it's okay.
Yeah, if you think it's cool, let people know it exists.
I miss Mitch Hedberg. All right, man.
All right, dude.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.